I should be writing number 394 for the week of March 19th.
Well, I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft. But I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.
Hey there, welcome to I Should Be Writing, the podcast for wannabe fiction writers. I'm your host, Mer Lafferty. And I am still working on my super secret project. Rather, I'll be working on the super secret project for a while. However, what I should say is the project is still super secret. I wish I could tell. Oh, man. It was really funny. There was a meme on Twitter the other day of what happened, how you are when you get good news and how you are when you get to say the good news. And the first part was very young Luke Skywalker. And when you get to say the good news, you are old and craggy Luke Skywalker. So that definitely hit home hard, especially when I think about the Netflix deal. If you are new to listening, I got a Netflix deal about 4 years ago, a Netflix option on my books, and I was unable to talk about it for about 19 months. They would not let me talk about it. It was announced soon after it was optioned again, and everybody was really excited for me, and I'm thinking, oh, well, thanks, but my excitement, I had this reaction a year and a half ago, so thanks. But no, I'm not excited about it, because I'm done with that emotion. And that feels like such a mean thing to say, like, oh, I'm glad you're excited about it. I'm not, but, you know, you can only hold excitement for so long, or else you'll wear yourself out. So I'm feeling good today. I'm feeling inspired to record, which is good because I've not been as regular as I wanted to be lately. I got a new book that I'm very excited to listen to because I try to look at life with the making your own luck kind of thing. You know, you can get published writing an awesome book and doing nothing else. But I've been thinking a lot lately about who I've networked with at cons who have taken me in great strides toward my publishing career. And so that's why I always advocate, if you can go to a convention, go, because it can't hurt and it might help. But I'm listening to this How Luck Happens book. I'm listening just the first chapter, and I had an epiphany, and it didn't have anything to do with luck. And I'm not really sure why this happened in my head, but it's what happened. I was thinking about procrastination, and I've been working on it, but I'm still pretty bad at procrastinating. And, you know, people ask, why do you procrastinate? And the obvious answer is, well, I don't want to work. But that's not it. Because I procrastinate about other things too. My new theory is procrastination gives you an easy excuse. It ties in with the fear of success, and because if you turn something in on time and people don't like it, then it's judged entirely on its own merits. If you procrastinate and you're late, then you can say, oh, I just procrastinated. If I'd given myself more time, I don't know why it's better for something to suck because you're lazy than because you did a bad job. But again, we're not talking about laziness. This is like a self-sabotage thing. Because if you show up on time to things and you turn things in on time and you do the work when you're supposed to do the work and you do the work right when you're supposed to do the work, you have to admit that it's going to be judged on its own merits. And even if other people judge something, let me see, how am I trying to say this? If other people judge it and they don't like it, they're going to just judge it because they don't like it. But you can tell yourself, oh, well, it's because of X. It's because I procrastinated. It's because I'm decided to do laundry instead of write that day. you make it okay in your head to fail, because if you had taken the time to prioritize and do the work right, then it would have been brilliant, right? I've just been trying to analyze my own way of going about things lately. I'm doing pretty good with writing. I'm staying mostly on track. But the interesting thing is, with recording I Should Be Writing, I've been wanting to do it on my handheld digital recorder. If you've heard some pops in the past, it's because I've been using that instead of sitting at my desk. And I'm trying to figure out why I don't want to commit to sitting down at my desk and recording a podcast. And I think it might be connected to this whole procrastination thing. It might be that if everything is right, if I say, right now is podcast time, and I get everything together that I'm supposed to get instead of, not knowing what number the podcast is, or not having the book I'm reading right in front of me, or not checking all of my audio levels, then if it sucks, that's why. So that's my new theory. After I realized that, I was recording this downstairs, walking around, annoyed that my dog was drinking her water very loudly in the background, and thinking, this is a kind of procrastination. I am half-assing this. Because, why? Because I'd rather you judge it based on the noise in the background rather than the content? I don't know. The mind is very difficult to figure out. Your own motivations are very difficult to figure out, which is why I'm still struggling. But that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that's the reason behind procrastination. That's the reason why behind not putting everything into the job you need to do. So once I realized that, I stopped recording and I came up here and I set everything up and I pulled up last week's I Should Be Writing so I would know exactly what number it was. I even checked to make sure that the right mic was being recorded. And I feel a lot more confident going into this one than wandering around with my digital recorder talking into the mic. I do like to wander around and talk, but I think ultimately this is better. Now the real problem is, now that I've had this epiphanies only carry you so far. I'm doing this one right now because I feel excited about this new concept. I'm enjoying the book. I'm enjoying the anecdotes of the things the woman tried to do about making your own luck. I'm reminded of an anecdote about a guy who seemed very accident prone. He had suffered many accidents in his life, and someone had mentioned how unlucky he was. And he's like, I'm the luckiest person alive because I'm still alive. If you survive a plane crash, are you unlucky because the plane crashed, or are you lucky because you survived? You may think you're unlucky because you didn't get a certain job or get a date with somebody, and then later on find out that the company's going under, or they're corrupt, or that person treats their significant others really badly, and you think, oh, I thought I was unlucky, and now I'm lucky. A lot of it's in just the way you think about things. But with everything I try to do regarding productivity or the way I work, the real challenge is maintaining. So I'm really hoping that I will bring you another podcast next week at my desk with this same concept. But this is my new exciting idea. I'm excited about this because I think it might help my mindset with procrastination and things. So coming up, we have an interview with G.S. Denning, also known as Gabe Denning, the author of Warlock Holmes, A Study in Brimstone, which is a parody of Sherlock Holmes, which you probably should have gotten by the title. Gabe's been a long-time listener of the show, and his book's really funny, so I'm excited to have him on. Hey, did you know that I Should Be Writing has a sponsor now? I Should Be Writing is supported by Serial Box. It's called the HBO of Reading by National Public Radio. Serial Box brings you gripping stories written by best-selling and award-winning teams of writers with new episodes every week. They're the addictive new shows you can read or listen to. The Serial Box app lets you switch from listening to reading with a click. So join the plot with Serial Box. Right now, I Should Be Writing listeners can get 20% off of any first season of a Serial Box series. Head over to cerealbox.com and enter the promo code WRITING18. 18 are numerals. That's SERIALBOX.com, and the code is WRITING18. And you know, I write for Cereal Box, so I really, really want you to go over there and check it out. I wrote on Book Burners. I've been there since season 1, and I think it's pretty awesome. So that's just me. But if you like YA, they've got something for you. If you like romance, they've got something for you. If you like spy, they got something for you. If you like geek girls, there's a whole bunch of stuff over there. So check it out. So either you're hearing this after 3 minutes of banter, or if I've cut this out, this is the very beginning. But welcome to I Should Be Writing, and I have with me the author G.S. or Gabe Denning. How are you, Gabe?
Hi, I'm good. I'm so happy to be here. I've been a long-time listener and fan.
Yeah, I would, if you were in the audience at was it London? No, it wasn't London. What?
That was Worldcon at
Spokane.
Yeah, I think it was Spokane where I was dead on your table, yeah.
Right, Spokane, the wonderful live Ditch Diggers that we failed to record. If you were live there, you would have seen the D&D with agents, and unfortunately, Gabe's agent, Sam, kept killing off, instead of hit points, they had authors, so he kept killing off his authors, and so since he had authors in the audience, 2 of them came and collapsed on the table, and Gabe was one of them. So thank you for being part of Ditch Diggers so long ago that was lost to the ether.
Well, I'm sorry to have died in vain, but always happy to lend my corpse.
Well, you didn't die in vain. It was just, a moment where a handful of people can go, you know what, I was there when Gabe died on that table. And it makes it that much more special for them.
Piling up the carnage. Good job, Sam. Good job.
So you are the author of the Warlock Holmes books. The most recent one is My Grave Ritual. Is that out yet, or is that coming out?
That depends when you air this, actually. It's so it'll be out May 15th, 2018.
Okay, it's not out yet.
Yeah. So you're getting this out fast. Yeah. So watch for it. It's the blue one.
Yes. So tell us about Warlock Holmes.
Well, they're a direct parody of the original 60 Sherlock Holmes stories, except in my version, he doesn't reason things out. He's not super bright. He is riddled with thousands of demons who will tell him the answer to any question he needs immediately. But he's got a roommate, John Watson, who would rather that he didn't consort with demons and sell off pieces of our world all the time. And, Watson, being a doctor, reasons these things out. So still got the odd couple elements, still a lot of comic elements. Gave some power back to Watson. That's what doctors do. They look at all the clues of your sickness and figure things out. The original Sherlock was actually based on a doctor. But ironically, the doctor in the story couldn't reason his way out of a wet paper bag most of the time.
So,
and it's been... Oh, go ahead.
No, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, and it's been really fun. I've got an overarching plot. My Watson is sitting down to put all of their adventures to paper at the eve of a demon invasion, saying, "Whoops, sorry, we messed up, we failed. Moriarty tricked us. The world of man is ending, and here's the story of how we all got doomed." And so the books sort of slowly tell this unraveling tale of Moriarty using Warlock to destroy the world, while each individual story, of course, has an arc very similar to the original. The mysteries figured out. Spoiler alert: it's usually demons. And then each book has a little arc. Book 1, sort of the introduction. Book 2 is Watson coming into his own as an adventurer and detective, and also figuring out who Warlock really is and why he sort of is the way he is. Book 3, My Grave Ritual, coming out, is all about the enemies. That's when Irene Adler and Moriarty really come into it and start kicking the boys' butts. And Book 4, which I'm writing now, is where Sherlock's drug problem becomes, in my version, Watson's drug problem. He's injecting himself with shredded Persian mystic to have magical visions and try to understand the world of magic that Warlock knows that he does not.
So you have...
yeah, it's been very fun.
So you're doing short stories based direct parodies. So what happens when you're done? You got a finite amount of stuff to parody here.
Oh, but so much. I so initially they bought 3 books, Titan Books, bought 3, and on the phone was saying, well, you've got a plan for all 60, right? If this, if the geeks keep buying them, you're going to keep writing them, right? And I said, sure, I've got a plan. And I had not actually read all 60 Holmes stories at that point. I hung up the phone and screamed at my wife that we had to go to Barnes and Noble. And yeah. And so now I have a plan to do all 60. It would take me 8 to 9 books to parody everything.
Wow.
They bought 3, then in fact, you know what? The contract came yesterday morning. I got 2 more. So
That's
4 and
awesome.
5
Congrats.
have been bought. Thanks. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm very happy because I'm already writing them, and I don't think I could stop if they told me to,
Mm-hmm.
And so it would take a lot. So a bunch of you writers will probably find if you do parody, I have to do the original plots, which were just a mystery and pretty condensed. But now I'm adding my own plots. There's the character arcs for Warlock and for Watson, learning his way into magic. There's more involvement of a couple of the Scotland Yard inspectors. My version of Tobias Gregson is Torg Grogson. He's an ogre. And we found out in the first book that the fans really liked him, and I barely had him in the second book, so we had to, write a bunch of that in. Lestrade is now Vladislav Lestrade. He's a vampire, clearly, and, trying to live in the world of men without getting discovered by his own fellows at Scotland Yard. And then there's this overarching, sort of magic plot with, the destruction of the world. And the original books didn't have any of this. So my stories wind up being longer than the stories that I'm parodying. The original plots and twists and clues and answers are still there. But there's a lot else there, too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm using them as a skeleton, but there's sort of so much else in my world that it'll take me more books than it took Arthur Conan Doyle.
All right, which automatically makes you better, right?
Oh, totally. Plus,
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in fairies.
Yeah,
and I don't do as much cocaine.
Not as much. Some, but not as much.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
Moderation in all things, Mur.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think my favorite phrase I ever came up with, because I don't do phrases, but would be even excess is permissible in moderation.
Nice. I like
Thanks.
it.
Made me sound smart, huh?
Yeah, it did make you sound smart. Although hanging a lantern on the fact that it makes you sound smart kind of reduces that effect a little bit.
It really does.
Yeah.
But it happens so rarely I have to crow.
Yeah. So we mentioned your agent, Sam Morgan, and I wanted to talk to you because you experienced something that strikes fear in the heart of new writers, because this happened when you were still relatively new. Tell us about the agent adventure that you went on in the past couple of years.
Oh, boy. Well, okay, so my agent adventure actually partly started on your show and writing excuses, listening. I didn't know if I wanted an agent. I was just writing in my room for myself and thinking, hey, maybe someday I'll get these books out, and listening to, writing excuses. And I started hearing a bunch of authors who not only had agents and liked it, although that can be problematic, but I heard a couple times about Jabberwocky, who also seemed to be a good kingmaker. Even if you couldn't get them to pick you up, if you could get them to read your first 50 pages and tell you why they weren't taking you, then with that advice, you could build a book that people would take.
Yeah.
So I sent Warlock Holmes off to Jabberwocky very early, 2012, and they didn't take me, but they did read it, and they gave me advice and said, hey, if you write this, rewrite this, we'll read it. And I said, no, not really. But I did rewrite it, and they did read it. And they kept me on the hook for 2.5 years, went through a couple of revisions on the book, Met him at a con, met Eddie at a con, so he got to shake my hand and figure out I wasn't insane. And then about the day after Britain's High Court ruled that, yeah, Arthur Conan Doyle and Sherlock Holmes really was in the public domain, my phone rang and they took me. I wound up signing on with Sam Morgan, and he got me, published really quick, and it was great. And, I really felt that I owed Jabberwocky because they'd really helped me build this book, and they got me out there, and I was seeing my book in bookstores because of them. And then another agency called Foundry they're mostly literary fiction. They wanted to move into sci-fi fantasy. And they did that by, in a sense, poaching my agent. They headhunted Sam out of Jabberwocky. And so, the nightmare that you were talking about is that day when you get the email that says, hey, I'm leaving this agency that, that set you up, that got you out there, that made you an author with your books in stores and everything. Will you come with me? So I had to choose whether or not I wanted to stay with Sam or whether or not I wanted to stay with Jabberwocky, although I didn't know who I'd be assigned to there, And in the end, I chose to go with Sam because he'd been they'd all been nice to me, but, he was the one who sort of dealt with my sense of humor, who really helped me, get the books polished and done and out there, and he'd always been a really good agent. Very supportive, always answers quickly. His advice has been very sound. So I bit the bullet, and I went with him. That contract I got yesterday for books 4 and 5, it's the first one with Foundry's name on it, going like, oh, whole new world. Let's see how this works.
But aren't taxes fun when you're dealing with the agents who sold your last book and the agents who represent your current books? And taxes are fun. It's just awesome.
Oh, yeah. Taxes are fun, and it's weird, too, because now, trying to get help and answers from Jabberwocky, who still, sends me checks and does all the accounting and everything like that. I'll sort of have to grin a little bit and say, hi, it's me, the betrayer. Yeah. Can you tell me how many books I sold in the last 6 months?
Well, it's all business. This happens all the time. My agent also changed agencies, and so the books that she represented when I was there, when she was there, are still handled by those agents. So I have a contact at that agency, and there's the agent that sold my first books. Those contracts are still at her agency. So I got to have a contact person there. So it's even if you think I'm just going to be with one agent my whole life, you still may have to juggle these things as your agent's career changes.
Oh, I thought I was going to be with my high school girlfriend my whole life. But, you get into it. and you start piling up X's now, don't you?
Yeah. But, so I'm glad you're still with Sam. He's a really good guy, and I need to get him back on the show, because he's always fun to talk to. So let's talk about how you approach your writing routine. And you're a special case because you do parody. So you have to keep your original source matter close at hand. So how do you go about, first, I want to know your daily routine, but I also want to know how you go about from I'm going to read this story to the story's done.
Right. Well, let's see. Broad question. So daily routine, we've got it set up really nice. Like I said, I'm an MRI guy. My wife's a teacher. So we wake up in the morning. She goes to school. I get the kids ready, get the kids to school. And then I've got this period of time for life and writing, about 2.5 hours. We're using it right now, by the way, where after I've dropped the kids off and before I show up in my scrubs and start scanning brains, I can sit down and write. And weekends are when I get a lot done. Oh, yeah, I have a problem with Red Robin because they'll let me sit there for 3 or 4 hours on weekends and just bring me fries and Diet Cokes and a kind word for as long as I care to stay. So I'm getting really fat and a lot of word count.
So Red Robin is
literary salon.
The Red Robin is the meaning. It's the reason behind the dad bod.
Yeah, it really sort of is.
Okay.
Yeah, because you'll, especially when you get in the groove and you're just writing and writing and writing, and they keep bringing you fries, and you're not really paying attention to how much you've eaten until you try to stand up, and then you realize you're crippled, and you've probably potato murdered yourself, and they're complicit. Yeah, that happens a lot.
The worst part is that I'm thinking, I don't really like Red Robin's burgers, but just sitting there and eating fries over and over and over again while writing, that sounds pretty good, actually. You're not a good influence, Gabe.
I know, sorry. I really apologize for your next 30 pounds. My fault.
Awesome.
But for writers with kids and stuff, it can be very hard. There can be so many distractions around home. So, yeah, I live in Vegas, which is not a bookie town, so the libraries are all open for like a few hours every day.
Oh, gosh.
So I'll go write in libraries, but they close a lot before I want to close,
Yeah.
As for how, like, my process of figuring the stories out, on the one hand, it's easy. I never have to outline. A famous British dead guy did that for me, 120 years ago. And so if I ever get in a pickle, like, okay, what do I have my characters do? I can just look right back and go, oh, well, they go to this place, they find this clue, and it means this. Okay, I'll just do that. So for the individual mysteries, those generally don't tend to be hard. For me, what winds up being hard is trying to avoid one of the original problems of the Holmes stories, which is they're really repetitive. Someone comes in, they all sit down, they talk a lot about a problem. Holmes dispatches a note or does one thing, solves everything. Watson is shocked. And then you have the denouement where Holmes reveals how he thought it out, what everything, meant, how it worked, and then the story's over. There are 60 of those. And so there's a great danger for my books that they're going to seem the same, very repetitive and very much the same. So I looked to, Buffy and X-Files, for how they solve this on television, which is, well, you've got your episode arc, this little story we're telling, but it sort of contributes to a season arc, what this year is about, what the baddie of the year is. And then we've got the overall arc for the series, what this whole thing is about. Aliens are living among us, or, hell is coming loose on Earth, and this is the one person who can stop it. And so I tried the same thing with series arc, book arc, and then the arc of the story inside the book. I just, as a writer, saying right now, book 4. This is the really weird one. This is where Watson starts having prophetic dreams. So it's the first time where I've done material that's really outside the mysteries. It's what Watson is learning through dream about Moriarty, and I know that sounds terrible, doesn't it?
Not when magic's involved.
About Moriarty and Adler. Well, and that's the funny thing too. He's building a dependence on it throughout the whole series. Magic has been bad. It hurts our world. He's been trying to get Warlock not to do it. But his frustration that he's being, hunted and beaten by two people he knows almost nothing about leads him to find other methods of trying to learn about them, and he goes down a sort of a dark hole. And that's the book I'm writing now. I'm writing the deep, dark, weird Empire Strikes Back-y, part of the series. So back to the Ewoks in, I don't know, 2 books maybe.
You're putting Ewoks? Awesome. I don't want metaphorical Ewoks. I want real Ewoks.
Real Ewok? I can't promise I won't. I really can't. I'm stealing from everywhere. In book 2, I made an offhand comment. They're dealing with the Pinkertons, and someone says, we need to find a Pinkerton agent. And Watson says, oh, yeah, no problem. There should be one in London. And the guy says, no, not one of the mundane men works for Pinkerton. I'm talking about one of his real agents. There are only 9 riders clad in black, and started off as a Lord of the Rings throw-in. But then as I realized how much the Pinkertons are in the original 60 Holmes stories, I'm taking them. I'm using them. They have problems with 9 agents who have been sort of these 9 terrible wraiths that have been under control of Alan Pinkerton. But my books are in 1863. In real life, Pinkerton died in 64. So the 9 are about to be masterless, and I get more fuel to build my extracurricular narratives to keep these books seeming different and unique every time you pick one up.
Excellent.
Yeah. This, I realize as we're doing this interview, this will make so much sense to the people who have been reading through my books and so much not sense to the people who haven't. So sorry, everybody else.
Well, now they just have to pick up your books.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I find booksellers near you everywhere. Oh, as this is a show for hopeful writers, let me tell you, one of the happiest things that I ever had in my life, like kind of up there with having my kids, was walking into a Barnes & Noble somewhere and seeing my book out on the staff picks table right next to Howl's Moving Castle and
Nice.
Princess Bride. Oh, it was so good. So you guys who want to be writers, do be writers and have that moment, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I've had a staff pick around here, but someone did send me a photo of an independent bookstore, I think, on the West Coast that had it as a staff pick. So I was all dancing. So much dancing.
Doesn't it feel just great?
It's amazing.
Yeah. Someone you've never met loves you,
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Although, what's funny for me is just the books I was beside. Like, really, I had to sit down and have this weird moment where, I grew up at just exactly the right age to want to be Wesley. And I did not feel like I belonged anywhere near Princess Bride,
Mm-hmm.
but you're so grateful that someone thinks you do, but at the same time, you just, you want to like shake them and go, do you understand? Do you understand how important that book is? Don't compare me to that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, but this is the thing. I recently talked about this, is that it's not your decision. It's like if somebody wants to, crap on your book, well, you have no control over that. But also, when you tell yourself that to make you feel better, you also have to remember that if somebody gives you high praise and you don't think you're worth it, it doesn't matter because you don't control that. Somebody's going to think your book is awesome, and that's what they're going to think. And, I suppose you could throw a fit online and make them not like you anymore, but I wouldn't recommend it.
No. I have a funny story about that, actually. So Christina at Jabberwocky was one of the people who, sort of sat me down. We were at a con together and, beat me up about the whole, do not answer your negative reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Just ignore them, have 2 glasses of wine, cry in the corner for a minute, and let it go. But then she, after I think maybe 3 glasses of wine, actually answered one of the first negative reviews I ever got. Someone wrote of the first book, Study in Brimstone, it is a bit light on the Holmesian intellectualism. And she saw that and replied late one night, there is an ogre in his underpants on the cover. Sir, you were warned.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. They're a good bunch.
There it is. Yeah, I'm looking at the cover right now. That is an ogre in his underpants.
That's an ogre in his underpants. He shows up, let's see, book 2. He's on a tricycle. Book 3, he's got a keg of whiskey strapped to his back. He's the only element that's not true. Warlock's on all the covers, but he and Grogson are the repeat cover themes. I also, there's another rite of passage for authors. Your first 1-star review.
Oh yeah.
And that one was super easy for me too, because you could practically hear the monocle in this guy's eye as he sat down and wrote this huffy, 100 years ago a character was born from intelligence and logic, sir, and he used a 3-word phrase that was so good, we were actually going to use it as a back cover blurb on the back of book 3, but he took the review down. I say he, I assume. I don't know. It could have been a woman, but that writer took the review down, so now we can't use it. But he called the book Openly Flaunted Degeneracy. And
wow.
I just wanted that on Right? On down the back of book 3, so bad.
Yeah, I think some
Openly
people don't
flaunted
understand
degeneracy.
that really, really well, if they work really hard in saying bad things about us, it actually sounds pretty good.
Sometimes, yeah. I was like, that
I mean,
person should
I
write a
want to
book.
check
They know
out
how
the
to turn a phrase.
openly flaunted degeneracy. I would totally check that out.
Right? See,
Yeah.
and for my fans, yeah, half of them. And the guy was responding to when in my parody of Silver Blaze, which is about a racehorse who is hobbled by his trainer. His trainer tries to hobble him to throw a race and make some money. And in my version, because I couldn't do such a long, sort of like have them go out everywhere and get get all the clues, especially because Holmes is basically dead at the time. He's kind of half a zombie. He's just summoning stuff willy-nilly into, Baker Street and questioning it. And he makes the horse talk. He just uses a lot of magic. And Watson sort of face-palming in the corner and makes the horse tell him what happened. And the horse is in love with the trainer. They were in a relationship. And the original dress, which, in the original story, the trainer had bought for his mistress and then needed to hobble the horse to get money to pay off the dress. In my version, he bought the dress just to impress the horse. And the horse is saying it worked. Oh, he looked just like Catherine the Great. It was amazing.
God.
And yeah, right. And so the guy who wrote that review was upset that I had included bestiality, which, okay, technically I had. There are still countries in this world that that would earn me a death sentence in. So fair play. All right, I accept your 1-star review. So yeah, the adventures of writing.
So why do you read your 1-star reviews? I mean, yeah, you might find gems like that, but you also might find things that kill your heart and make you want to crawl underneath the desk.
Well, sort of, but okay, so I didn't start as a writer. I started as an improviser. For those listeners who've ever seen Whose Line Is It Anyway, that kind of stuff, where you're just up on stage, making up 8 stories a night in front of 200 people who will certainly let you know if they like it or not. Mm-hmm. And as an actor, you think you go to a bunch of auditions and tryouts, and you hope to get about 1 in every 20 to 40, so rejection is definitely part of the gig. And you'll also find, when you're an improviser, you do 2 shows a week at least every week. And a lot of people love you and they pat you on the back, and that's really nice. But necessarily helpful. If one person, tells you, do you fidget like crazy with your left foot and it's driving me nuts, then although that was certainly not a kudos, not a pat on the back, it was useful. You can actually change and grow through that. And, I went into this knowing that I'm stealing, something that's very much beloved by many people, and a lot of them won't like what I'm doing. In fact, frankly, I'm shocked by how many Holmes fans do love what I'm doing. I thought I'd get way more flame, way more. Really, there's just a few. Even on Goodreads, where people are very, booky, and there's a lot of Holmes fans, and people treat me nice. And like, thanks, everybody. But, if you can be thick-skinned about it, if you can realize, hey, a lot of people like what I do, not everyone is going to. If you can look at the people who don't, and especially if they can say, well, why they don't, then it really helps you sort of learn about your own work, get back some of that that view of your own work that you lose when you read it 100 times.
Yeah.
You're too close to see it. Well, these guys aren't, and they will let you know the ugliness they see. And you can sort of, and then, as dispassionately as you can, you look at what they say and you agree or you disagree. And there are even cases where I have to, read these reviews and say, yeah, you're right. Actually, my book would be better if I could do this, but it would also be 200,000 words, and they won't let me. So, sorry. There are negative feedbacks that you will agree with, and you sort of have to pick and choose what do these people want? What am I going to do? What do I want to do as a writer? And it actually, even that very negative feedback can help you form that plan.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think there's treasure in negative feedback. There's not support. No, there is. I mean, actually, because that's useful support. There's not emotional support, but there's technical support in it.
Exactly. So, where can we find you online, and remind us again what books you have available?
Right. You can go to gsdenning.com. I'm there. And you can shop from there, or you can, of course, find me at Barnes & Noble and Amazon and all those big places. Warlock Holmes, A Study in Brimstone is the first one. That's the green one. It's out. Warlock Holmes, Hellhound of the Baskervilles, with Foofy the Hellhound. That's the orange one. That's the second one. It's also out. Warlock Holmes, My Grave Ritual is the third one. That's out in May of 2018. And can be pre-ordered from all those big booksellers, and maybe some small ones too. Give them a chance. Book 4, The Sign of Nine, will be out in May of 2019, and Book 5, The Finality Problem, which should be out in May of 2020. Don't look for those yet. Oh, please give me a chance. I still have a lot of writing to do.
Excellent.
Yeah, but thanks for listening, all you Mur fans and Warlock fans, and thanks for making me a writer. And Mur, I'll see you at the cons, right?
Oh yeah, what cons are you going to this year?
No, you know what? I'm cutting back. I'm going to WorldCon. I'm going to the Las Vegas Writers Convention, and then I may well do a couple of Comic-Cons. Phoenix Comic-Con has asked me back. They were really great, so I may well go back there. Oh, and you know something? For all you geeky writers, anime cons are oddly healthy and wonderful. I tried going to all the different geek cons. The gamers cons, especially the esports ones, people can be a little esporty and mean and wonder why books are there. Anime cons, everyone's just so nice to each other and so wonderful and there to, share what they love. And I was kind of stunned by how many books I sold at anime conventions. So anyway, try it.
That's awesome.
Try it, Geek Writers. I think you'll like it. Yeah.
Good to know. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I've always wanted to be on this show.
Oh, that's cool. Thanks a lot, Gabe, for being on the show. If you would like to email me about anything I talked about today, or any questions, then you may email me at mightymur@gmail.com. The blog and show notes are at murverse.com. And I will not be shilling for votes anymore because nomination season is done. And now we move on to nail-biting season, which is the will I get a Hugo nomination or not. But I'm trying not to subject anybody else to that, except for the fact that I just brought it up. But I will show my books, 6 Wakes, Clone Murder Mystery in Space. People who don't like science fiction enjoy the mystery. People who don't like mystery enjoy the science fiction. It's for everybody. Okay, there's not a lot of romance in it. There's a hint of a little romance, but that's available print, audiobook, and ebook. Audiobook and ebook in the US only. I'm sorry, I don't have control over that. And if you're enjoying this podcast, you should know that there is a book associated with it called, strangely enough, I Should Be Writing. And the ebook is out now. If you've been waiting to get the book until you could get it on your device or your computer, or you wanted something more accessible, I got mail from a blind listener. Very happy that the book finally came out in ebook so they could read it, which made me very happy. And I believe the ebook should be available in English-speaking territories. Speaking of accessibility, I've been paying to get these podcasts transcribed lately because I believe accessibility is important, and a lot of people have asked if I had do transcriptions. If you want to help me pay for the transcription, you can support my Patreon at patreon.com/mightymur. And if you support, you get the transcription a week before everybody else does. So it goes out to the Patreon supporters and then a week later it shows up on my blog at merverse.com. And I think that's everything. Take a look at your own procrastination habits. Everybody's got them. And sometimes we even procrastinate on stuff we want to do. And I think it's fear of failure, fear of success, fear of being judged, and procrastination gives us an easy out in our brains. But we really should be judged on the actual work and know that we're being judged on the actual work. And I thought I could get through this without the dogs, but they got me at the end. But since we're done, I'm just going to end it. Thank you for listening, and you should be writing. Remember, you can support the show at patreon.com/mightymur. I should be writing theme music provided by John Anelio. You can find more about him at johnanelio.com. This podcast is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license.